Thanks again to all of our supporters on Patreon. You can help us out by visiting patreon.com/thecyberwire and checking out all of the offers we have there. We do appreciate it. Thanks. The Mabna Institute was pretty good at phishing. Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg sends regrets to Westminster. Facebook is under FTC investigation. Cambridge Analytica is in hot water with the FEC. Kaspersky says outing Slingshot was just part of the job. The city of Atlanta is finding it surprisingly hard to recover from SamSam ransomware. Adhar may be leaky again. Bot says Lord Haw-Haws. More than 20 countries expel Russian diplomats, and a Russian cyber reprisal is expected. Time to tell you about our sponsor, Recorded Future. If you haven't already done so, take a look at Recorded Future's Cyber Daily. We look at it, the CyberWire staff subscribes and consults it daily. The web is rich with indicators and warnings, but it's nearly impossible to collect them by eyeballing the internet yourself, no matter how many analysts you might have on staff, and we're betting that however many you haven't got enough. Recorded Future does the hard work for you by automatically collecting and organizing the entire web to identify new vulnerabilities and emerging threat indicators. Sign up for the Cyber Daily email to get the top trending technical indicators crossing the web. Cyber news, targeted industries, threat actors, exploited vulnerabilities, malware, suspicious IP addresses, and much more. Subscribe today and stay ahead of the cyber attacks. Go to recordedfuture.com/intel to subscribe for free threat intelligence updates from Recorded Future. That's recordedfuture.com/intel. And we thank Recorded Future for sponsoring our show. Major funding for the CyberWire podcast is provided by Cylance. From the CyberWire studios at Data Tribe, I'm Dave Bittner with your CyberWire summary for Tuesday, March 27th, 2018. Those Iranians the U.S. indicted last week for a variety of cyber crimes were apparently pretty good at phishing. They got their university victims to swallow fish bait constructed to resemble an anodyne but worrisome message from their university library. Your account has expired, the message said, and you need to reactivate it. The message changed little over the 4 years of the campaign. Why tinker with success? It was working nicely. Thank you very much. Troubles for Facebook and Cambridge Analytica continue amid a growing awareness of the activities of data brokers, firms that collect, aggregate, and sell data about those of us who use the internet. Facebook's CEO Zuckerberg has declined a request that he appear before the UK's Parliament to explain what his company has been about. Instead, he will send what sections of the British press describe as underlings to do the explaining. Yesterday, the Federal Trade Commission confirmed what had been widely reported last week. It's investigating Facebook for possible misuse of users' data. The advocacy group Common Cause has filed a complaint with the Federal Election Commission alleging that Cambridge Analytica, its corporate parent SCL Group Limited, and several named individuals, including whistleblower Christopher Wiley, with violations of federal election laws that prohibit foreigners from participating in U.S. political campaigns. Kaspersky defends its decision to blow the anti-ISIS Slingshot cyber campaign. It's their job to, quote, take the fish from the water, end quote. They don't care what language said fish speaks, they have to catch it. Critics say the report on Slingshot not only compromised a useful U.S. Joint Special Operations Command collection effort against ISIS terrorist cells, but it may also have put lives at risk. Atlanta's SamSam ransomware infestation seems unusually resistant to remediation. Estimates now suggest it will take the city months to recover, but Atlanta's city mothers and fathers are being tight-lipped about the details. The criminals have taken down their contact portal as they've received increased scrutiny and gotten tired, evidently, of answering questions. Assurances by responsible authorities to the contrary, India's Aadhaar National Identification Database may have been compromised again. ZDNet reports that security researchers are telling the news service that the database is leaking personal information. The ruling Janata Party calls such reports fake news, but ZDNet and others say no, there's really still a problem here. British Defense Secretary Gavin Williamson calls Russian bots the Lord Haw-Haws, of the 21st century. He's alluding to William Joyce, the British trader who broadcast for Nazi Germany during the Second World War. Joyce was captured soon after VE Day and hanged for treason in 1946. If Secretary Williamson is right, then, okay, Lord Haw Haw had about the same level of influence in Britain that Tokyo Rose had in the U.S. But in other respects, the comparison may be wayward. Lord Haw Haw always began his broadcasts by saying,
"Germany calling, Germany calling, Germany calling."
The Russian trolls are less overt. But Williamson's shot may have hit home anyway. Russia Today is outraged by the comparison. Security firm Cyber Edge Group recently published the 5th edition of their annual Cyber Threat Defense Report, setting out to take a vendor-agnostic look at cybersecurity challenges. Steve Piper is CEO and co-founder of Cyber Edge Group, and he joins us with the highlights.
This was a web-based survey conducted in November of 2017, a 27-question survey to be specific. And we surveyed 1,200 security professionals. And each security professional worked for an organization with a minimum of 500 employees. But we have respondents from smaller organizations like that up to multinational Fortune 100 enterprises and everything in between. These respondents came from 17 countries and 19 industries. So it's very much a geographically dispersed survey.
Take us through some of the key findings of the report.
Let me give you the top 3 takeaways from this year. And again, this is our 5th annual report. I'm going to start out with some good news. I'm an optimistic guy, glasses half full type of guy. So the good news that I want to share is for the first time in our report history, we saw a decline in successful cyber attacks. So we asked, the respondents, was your organization, successfully attacked by a cyber threat last year? And last year's 79.2% said yes. This year, that dropped 2 points to 77.2%. The last 4 years, it's risen every year. So I know a 2% drop, I'm not dancing in the streets, but a drop is better than an increase. So I'm going to take what I can get. Ransomware, obviously, is still very much in the news. And what we learned is only half of those ransomware victims that actually paid the ransom, only half of them got their data back, got it unencrypted. So that's kind of a discouraging statistic. Overall, 55% of organizations that participated in our survey were victimized by ransomware last year. So it's kind of like flipping a coin twice. Flip a coin once to see if you're likely to be victimized by ransomware. And then if you decide to pay the ransom, pony up the bucks for some Bitcoin, well, then flip the coin again to see if you're likely to get your data back. And then the third takeaway from this year's study is the growing concern, the shortage of skilled IT security personnel. This has been a problem for years. Each year we ask a question. This is my favorite question from the survey. On a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being highest, rate how each of the following inhibit your organization from adequately defending itself. So in other words, what's standing in the way of cybersecurity professionals succeeding and defending their networks from attacks? Well, the number one response for the past few years has been low security awareness among employees, lack of investment in the human firewall, as I put it. But this year, for the first time, we have a new inhibitor, lack of skilled personnel. And so this is on a lot of organizations' minds. When we asked this question 5 years ago, lack of skilled personnel was in 5th place, then the next year in 4th place, then 3rd, then 2nd, and this year in 1st. So it's a growing problem affecting all organizations.
That's Steve Piper from Cyber Edge. You can find their 2018 Cyber Threat Defense Report on their website. The British anti-doping organization sustained a cyber attack over the weekend, and suspicion turns to Fancy Bear. That is, if you're just joining us, of course, Russia's GRU. UK anti-doping confirmed yesterday that it had stopped an attack by unknown hackers over the weekend. The attackers were evidently after test and personal information about athletes. While Fancy Bear is the animal of interest in this matter, this seems probably to be just Fancy's normal business. Another manifestation of Russia's long-standing grudge against clean athletes, rather than its blowback for Her Majesty's government ongoing work to rally the civilized world against the Salisbury incident. Such blowback is widely expected. 22 countries have now taken action against Russia in solidarity with the UK over the nerve agent attack in Salisbury. 182 Russian nationals are affected, most of them diplomats declared persona non grata. Lithuania is the outlier here. In addition to expelling diplomats, they told 21 other Russian nationals to get out and banned a further 23 from entering the country. The 60 the U.S. has told to leave include 48 from the Russian embassy in Washington and 18 from Russia's UN delegation in New York. The U.S. says they're all engaged in espionage. Washington has also ordered the Russian consulate in Seattle closed. Officials describe that closure as based on Seattle's proximity to the major U.S. Navy submarine base on the Kitsap Peninsula and the big Boeing facilities around Puget Sound. This is the second consulate the U.S. has ordered shuttered in less than a year. In August, the administration told Russia to close its San Francisco consulate. That move was in response to Russia's order that the U.S. cut its own diplomatic staff in Russia. As is being widely noted, Russian retaliation in the form of a cyber attack is generally expected. Attacks on electrical power grids are particular matters of concern, but for now, Russia's response is likely to be a tit-for-tat expulsion of diplomats. Moscow is crowdsourcing its response, asking people to recommend which consulates and missions they should shut down. And now a word from our sponsor, Looking Glass Cyber Solutions, an open letter from the malicious botnet on your network.
So, here we are. It's just you and me at this godforsaken hour. You're looking right at me, too. I'm on the second monitor to the left. Had you seen me, you would have realized I compromised computers in your organization, and they work for me now. Even if you had spotted me, your current process is too slow to catch me. You update your network rule sets once a week? I'll be in Cabo by then working on my TAN. I love getting to know your company, by the way, your financial data, personal records. I've got a piece of unsolicited advice for you. Check out what Looking Glass Cyber Solutions is doing. They've got some kick-butt technology that fends off cyber threats like me, data breaches, ransomware, and stolen credentials in real time. Be a hero with the Looking Glass Scout Shield Threat Intelligence Gateway. See the video at lookingglasscyber.com.
And joining me once again is Justin Harvey. He's the Global Incident Response Leader at Accenture. Justin, welcome back. Obviously, hot in the news these days is cryptocurrency mining. And you wanted to make the point that this is a big deal and it's something we need to take seriously.
Yes, from a cyber defense perspective, this is a new type of threat. Well, I guess it's not a new type of threat. Where it's still there are still cryptocurrency mining malware variants that we're seeing out there. They're not doing anything new. What we're seeing is the usage of, or the end goal of this cryptocurrency mining malware is what's startling, and that is with the proliferation of cryptocurrency. It seems like it's a gold rush. There are multiple types of cryptocurrencies out there. There's Bitcoin, there's Ethereum, there is Monero, and everyone wants to cash in on this. What you're finding, though, is that for the average home user or the hobbyist or the person who feels like, oh, I'm going to devote my computing power to this, my 2 or 3 machines, is that it is not enough because the cryptographic algorithms are getting harder and harder to crunch. So you need more and more CPU and more power. Mm-hmm. The more enterprising people are thinking, okay, well, I could get that CPU power in order to essentially print my cryptocurrency. I could go to the cloud. I could go to rent servers. But what's happening is that still requires electricity and hardware costs. So it's really being transitioned to cyber criminals who are thinking, well, let's see, we have malware, we have the means to distribute it, and we have the total addressable market is every machine out there. So let's write malware, get it onto people's machines, and start to, without their knowledge, let's start mining this cryptocurrency. And that way they're able to get the scale and to get the money they need without actually paying for any of the CPU or for the electricity.
Yeah, and I think you and I have talked about this before. From an IoT point of view, when we were talking about DDoS with things like video cameras, using excess computing power and something like a connected video camera. I suppose some people could say, well, if my video camera is still doing its video camera job, why should I care if it's using its extra processor cycles to mine Bitcoin for someone? It's still doing what I need it to do.
Great point. And in fact, we were just part of a large-scale investigation where there was a cryptocurrency mining malware that was also self-propagating, meaning it would infect its neighbors. And on top of that, it was fileless and PowerShell-based. So it was very difficult to detect and to stop. The reason why everyone should be concerned is that for two reasons. Number one is it's taking CPU and power away from the device and therefore away from you. So if in your example, your camera is still doing its work, it's still driving up the CPU and the fan and causing you more money. And there's also a possibility that due to the CPU limitations of that IoT device or your laptop or your notebook or your server, for instance, it could actually be denying you services or denying you service by not allowing you to complete things on time or even completing them at all because your CPU is 100% busy. The second reason that people should pay notice to this is that you have to wonder how it actually got on there. And what cyber criminals are doing here is that they are essentially sourcing their total addressable market by looking at Shodan. Shodan gives them a list of millions of IP addresses and services that are available out there. They're writing their own code to go scan all those IP addresses and look for vulnerabilities. And then they're implanting, instead of malware to spy on you or malware to steal data, they're essentially putting in their cryptocurrency mining. So as I always say, where there's smoke, there's fire, which means if your organization is cryptocurrency mining, you might not think it's a big deal, but it is a big deal because they're stealing from you, your CPU and your power, and there's a way it got in there. So maybe if cryptocurrency mining cyber criminals can find that hole, maybe other adversaries can find that hole, or they found it already.
Justin Harvey, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And that's the Cyberwire. Thanks to all of our sponsors for making the Cyberwire possible, especially to our sustaining sponsor, Cylance. To find out how Cylance can help protect you through the use of artificial intelligence, visit Cylance.com. And thanks to our supporting sponsor, E8 Security. Follow the behavior, find the threat. Visit E8Security.com to learn more. The Cyberwire podcast is proudly produced in Maryland out of the startup studios of Data Tribe, where they're co-building the next generation of cybersecurity teams and technology. Our show is produced by Pratt Street Media with editor John Petrick, social media editor Jennifer Ivan, technical editor Chris Russell, executive editor Peter Kilpie, and I'm Dave Bittner. Thanks for listening.